Hello, and good morning, and welcome to another edition of the Richard Listens podcast. Today, we again venture into the world of music, as well as a tribute to anyone who served and the work for and with veterans and those who serve our country. Today's guest is Mr. Sean Martin. He began singing at the age of 4 in community choirs in Fort Bragg, California, and picked up guitar at the age of 12. He is a Musicians Institute alumnus, earning an AA in guitar performance and music industry studies. He serves as the executive producer of the Quarantines albums and is the band's primary lyricist, songwriter, and content creator. Their latest album, Aversion to Normalcy, recorded at the legendary Blackbird Studios in Nashville, Tennessee, and he surpassed 60,000 streams on Spotify since release in 2025. He's an award-winning vocalist in high school. He's placed in both regional and state honor choirs. He's a Linnea award-winning writer and actor for the one-act play The Black Widow Project in 2003, which won the Best Docudrama and directed by Meg Patterson. He has served in the U.S. Army as an Airborne Infantryman with the 509th PIR, 4th Brigade, 25th Infantry Division from 2004-2007, and has been deployed to Iraq from October 2006 to 2007. Following his service, Sean became a vocal advocate for veterans' mental health and is responsible for use of cannabis as a treatment for PTSD. Without further ado, we welcome Mr. Sean Martin. Welcome to the show, Sean Martin. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Richard. It's very good to be here.
Yes, I always say I learn a lot about my guests through the way we meet, and thank you for your patience. I know we've tried to get this on the books about 5 times, so persistence clearly is a strength of yours, and determination.
Yes, absolutely. It is a virtue, yeah, that I've learned over many, many years.
And we were just connecting. This is a new era in podcasting. I've been doing this off and on over, crazy to think, in different varieties in studio, online over the last decade. And now there are services that are matching based on previous podcasts. So I want to thank the pod matching, in this case, pod pitch, you said, gods that are aligning and help to introduce us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously my audience tied to mental health and working with all kinds of alternative therapies for trauma and depression and veterans mental health. So, but let's start with you. Tell us about the quarantine, and where would you like to begin, with music or with military, or somewhere in between?
Let's start with music. It's The Quarantined first.
Yes.
It started in 2010, when I was going to Musicians Institute. Prior to this, I had served in the military, as Richard had mentioned. I was in the Airborne Infantry, and went to Iraq in 2006. And from those experiences, led me to a very dark place, not dealing with PTSD, not really knowing how to deal with the service connected disabilities, how to deal with the service related trauma, how to deal with the world in general, because it's a very, very different world living in the military as opposed to living in the civilian world. And it's also a lot harder when you don't have some kind of way to transfer your military experience into the civilian world. The best thing that I had was go join a gang. They can really use your infantry skills down there. How to search out and find a person. Oh, they love you. But everybody else is kind of like leadership skills, maybe. They didn't really know. Nobody really knew how to translate that into the civilian world, especially not my career counselors at Musicians Institute. They were just like, you were in the what? Doing what? With who? Where? The hell? Like they had no idea.
There's a disconnection, yeah.
Oh, very much so, very much so. So eventually, at first I was looking for, other bands to join, and then I decided, I'm going to start writing down some of the feelings that I have and putting them into songs. I think I can do it, and from that started the quarantine.
That's beautiful. So it's been over 15 years. And, not to take you down a socio-political route, but do you think this is different for veterans now than it was after World War II? Like the companies were just welcoming back veterans and uh, trying to find them jobs. Is it just like the world doesn't know what to do, that they kind of dichotomize what happens in war?
Well, actually, I'd say this time was a little bit different because in World War II, everybody knew who the enemy was. Everybody was well aware that the fighting,
Mhm.
go there and kill some Krauts. Good for you, man. Those Nazis need to be stopped. That was the
Right.
mentality. When
Clear
I
and
got back,
identifiable enemy.
yeah, when I got back, it was, nobody really wanted to talk about the combat experiences. And any combat experiences that you did have, they were like, whoa, whoa, buddy, too much information. I mean, come on, we don't need to talk about, people dying and stuff. That's just over the top, come on, man. It was very much a whitewashed, uh, kid glove kind of way that they were dealing with me. It definitely felt like nobody knew how to handle the intensity that I was dealing with, and nobody knew how to deal with the intense subjects that I had dealt with. So even the VA, in 2010, 2012, the VA had no idea what PTSD was. They had zero fucking clue. They thought that it was, more so based around fear than it was around your nervous system. They thought that you're just overly scared of the things that happen to you. So let's help you deal with those fears. Let's give you some opioids. Let's give you some SSRIs. You can get off of those, no problem. You can go and therapy. I mean, maybe, but really, drugs are going to be your thing. That's what the VA was operating and orientated towards. And it wasn't until 2016, 2017 that they started to give me the correct answers for PTSD. They were saying it's a nervous system disorder. You have to deal with the symptoms that come around it. Yes, fear is one of them. Yes, anger is one of them. There are many, many others. But if you understand how to get to your balance level and can manage your own uh, chemical levels, your chemical balances, generally speaking, um,
Mm.
and know how to, increase your dopamine, increase your serotonin, reduce your cortisol levels. If you know how to do things that help with that, then you'll have a much better chance at getting through PTSD. I didn't get that answer until 2019, but the definitions finally came around in 2017. So it's been a long, long battle, and it's one that you don't really expect because it's not that the society wasn't supportive. The society was very supportive. They just didn't know what the hell was going on, and they didn't know,
Right.
like they didn't have any. Nobody knew exactly what was going on in Iraq, and that was by design. That was by design. So when I come back and I tell people stories real quickly, we found this guy who was using kids to build bombs. And whenever they would blow themselves up, he would just shuffle them off in a corner and bring another one down there, and they'd be scared out of their goddamn minds. And he's acting like a serial killer because he was a serial killer of kids. That's the kind of person who we found, and we had to go put them into detainees operations and then send them into the Iraqi prison system. That's the kind of dude who we're talking about, not like misdemeanors. No, we're talking about the worst of the worst. That's who's left in 2006, 2007. It's them and the most stuck people you've ever met in your life because of their poverty, because of their socioeconomic status, because of their who they are, because of their religion, because of their family size, many different factors that keeps them in a war zone. And that's the kind of people who you're dealing with. The worst of the worst, and the people who have no idea what the hell is going on around them. It's it,
Right. I
it's
mean,
not normal. That's not like World War II at all.
and it's so hard, right, from our own cultural experience growing up to like understand what people in a different country are living through. Uh,
Right.
so again, thank you for your service and yeah, not that anyone should have to learn it in that way, but I'm sure those lessons shape who you are and the work you do.
Absolutely.
At what point did your path into music lead you towards helping other veterans?
It wasn't until after I was was able to ask for help myself. It wasn't until after I had a temporary psychotic breakdown and that landed me in the VA psych ward. And for about 2 weeks there, I was sitting in the VA psych ward, paranoid as all hell. I remember, I remember specifically, um, I was, reality wasn't really like a thing for me. So people would talk to me and it didn't feel like it was reality. So I wouldn't treat it like it was reality. Kind of laughing all the time, kind of like not really taking it serious. And anytime it's like you're kind of testing reality, where it's like, what? Like you just sort of get in people's faces just to make sure that they're real. Um, and I did that in the psych ward with a guy who was all tatted up and like looked like a biker dude. Was huge and heavy and big old long hair and I got up in his face. Was like, dude, who the hell are you? What the fuck are you doing here? And he was like, man, it's all good. Don't worry about it. It's all good, brother. It'll be fine. Like this dude's the scariest looking dude, but he was the nicest dude I've ever seen in my life. So that started to help change to be like, oh man, my perception of things is totally off. And my reactions to things are totally wrong. I'm not even seeing reality for what it is. Maybe I should
Mm.
take a step back.
How did you receive help? What was the key for you to getting help? Was it the right approach from a practitioner? Was it, feeling seen or cared for, the right intervention?
Knowing that I wasn't just subject to the wild horse that is PTSD, that I could actually maintain and control it, that I could somehow get in front of the way that I was feeling because I knew that my nervous system was not, my feelings were different than my emotions. So I feel like I'm in a panic mode. My emotions tells me I'm fine. Then I have to use CBT to figure out which one is right. Maybe it's coming from actual both places. Maybe it's coming from places where I didn't even see before. But if I go and address those, then I have a chance of getting in front of it. So it wasn't until that I was taught about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, that I started to understand that I
Separating
don't.
facts from feelings.
Right. Yes. Yes. When you can separate those facts from feelings and understand, you understand more about yourself that way. And once I did that, and I was able to help myself, then I was like, okay, well, I can put this into the music then. And really getting it into the advocacy work of getting in with people in their situation, and trying to help lead them to the next therapist, try to usher them through the problem, to say you don't have to sit with this forever, you don't have to fight this battle alone. There are other people who can help you through. You don't have to be a lone warrior to do this. And that's really the center of my advocacy work is orientation, orientating people towards the solution instead of just saying, screw it, alcohol and cigarettes will be fine. Because that's
Right.
what a lot of people do. That's what I did for a good long time.
Right. And we can certainly understand that if you don't feel cared for, seen, understood, or that there's a treatment that can help you or support you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Self-medicating is it stays in line with that, you've seen it, you can carry it, just
Yeah.
keep it together. Right.
Yeah. Because
And
there's always a line that they would tell us in therapy. They'd be like, hey, things will never be as bad as they were in Iraq. For example, at least you're not getting shot at, right? So it doesn't matter how bad it's going to get. It's not going to be as bad as it was before. At least you're not getting shot at. But there is a good and a bad section of that where you can learn to build up an acceptance to intolerable things because, hey, at
mm,
least I'm not getting shot at. Or you can view it as I can lead a better life because I don't have these major things stopping me. Now I can
Mhm.
really start to flourish, you know? So the same advice would inspire two different reactions in different people. It was very interesting.
Wow. Yeah, that grit muscle, right? I can tolerate pain and suffering, therefore can stay here.
Right,
Right.
right. But sooner or later, if you don't address the pain and the suffering, it will kill you.
Right.
And
Well, it's
that,
also that mechanism to be able to identify, and a lot of the clients I work with, to be able to see yourself as strong, as resilient. We don't see it as something that's great about us or,
Mhm.
a positive thing, and that we can take this and build it in other areas, that we are resilient, that we can handle adversity. Instead, it's like, just like we accept the conditions outside of us and we're just reacting, based on this skill set. But it's right, it's harmful because it keeps us disconnected from creativity, joy, things that make life enjoyable or meaningful. So let's
Absolutely.
get
Yeah.
to you. Yeah, let's get to you and your music. I mean, at 4 years old, you were discovered on the choir stage. I mean, when did you first? I mean, when did someone come up to you and say, "Hey, you've got a voice, or you can play," or when did you notice it? Either
Um,
or.
I would say when I was 7, and I was chosen to be part of the 3-person kid choir in the Opera Tosca
Mm,
Mendocino Music Festival. It's we would play to a tent of about 5,000 seats. And so you really had to learn how to project correctly because we're doing stage whispers to 5,000 people. So you have to learn how to do that. It can't be a regular whisper and it can't be a, hey, it's got to be you have to figure out how to whisper and still project at the same time, even though it
mm,
sounds like a whisper, So you have to learn how to do that to a stage of 5,000 with an audience with 5,000 people. So there was a lot of really intense vocal work that I was introduced to at a very young age. And then once I started to get into rock music and started playing guitar when I was 12,
mm,
and started to write my own songs, did it all start to come together? And I realized, oh, holy shit, I've got a whole singing repertoire that I can now play my own accompaniment to. And that to me was like I just figured out how to build myself a motorcycle, and now I can go wherever the hell I want to. Like that's what it felt like.
mm. And what was that like for you to be to seen to find talent?
Um, well, to me, it started from a place of not thinking, "Oh, I have talent." It was more thinking from a place of I can continuously work on this, and eventually I'll get to a point. Because I
Mm,
don't like even now I have ability. I don't have talent because talent to me is like an intangible. It takes away from all of the practice that creates talent because you don't get to talent without practice.
thank
So
you for clarifying that. That's great. Yeah.
sure, yeah. And so for me, I've never seen someone who is just naturally talented. I've seen someone who puts in ridiculous amounts of work, and that's what you see.
Right. Yeah, and yet as a young man to be seen, or yeah, I guess sometimes it's not always warranted, right? People can project their own needs onto us, but even to be seen or recognize that there is a path. I mean, that can mean a lot of different things. I know young athletes that were seen for that, and that they kind of resent it later on, that was fulfilling other people's dreams or narratives.
Oh yeah,
Um,
sure. Yeah.
but it sounds like you enjoyed it from the beginning.
Well, I will say that I have felt throughout my entire life, that because I was viewed as having talent, I was a prime candidate to be taken advantage of.
Mm,
Always someone who wants to exploit you. Always. So it's just like the Eurythmics song. Then in the last podcast, I screwed up in naming the song. It's the Eurythmics song, "Sweet Dreams." Some of them want to abuse you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be
Mm,
abused. It's important to remember that this world is not looking at you like you're some kind of talent. They're looking at you like you're some fresh piece of meat that they can finally sink their teeth into. Ah, that's what it really is. So it's important to distinguish that people can view you as talented. That doesn't mean they view you in a positive light.
So when did you see your own talent, or when did you get to, did it coincide with your own healing journey? What it sounds like you were much further along when you started to get a lot of streams and things like that online in terms of your own healing journey. Did it integrate along the way? Like, what was the relationship between music, healing, and making it a profession?
Yeah, I would say the healing for me came first. Um, then uh then the understanding that I've got a talent and it's on me to foster it. It's on me to take it forward into the world. Um, and then the next step, I had to give up validation because the most important aspect of being in the music industry is being able to take 10 million rejections and still get up after each one and say, I'm gonna go up and keep playing again. Just because that person doesn't think that I'm right for whatever particular thing doesn't mean that I'm not full as a human, that I'm not complete as an artist, that I'm not able as a person, that I'm not capable of doing so much more than whatever I'm able to show them in a minute 30 seconds. You have to have the resilience of mind in order to get through that. That's the gauntlet of the music industry. It's who can keep their head when the entire world goes, whatever, and turns away from you.
Right. I don't like that kind of music. Not my style.
Right. I hear it all the time. Oh, I really like what you do, but it's not really my style. That's okay. That's fine. Don't worry. I've got other stuff that I'll do. And I'm sure that'll be up your alley. I've got lots of different genres that I can do. So whenever someone is like, "Oh, punk really isn't my style," I'll be like, that's fine. The
Mm,
message and what's going on still sticks in their brain, whether they listen to it, whether they know it or not. So even if they're like, whatever, pushing it aside, they can do. I've done that with artists for 10 years. 10 years. I hated Rush for a good long time. Couldn't stand them. And then one day I turned it on and I could actually hit the notes that Geddy Lee was doing. And I was like, oh my God, I get it now. This is great. I love this. It's so much better than all the other shit. This is like they don't even think like other musicians. Then I became like a total Rush head and like listened to everything they did. But that didn't start until I was like 24, 25. So sometimes I know that in experiencing art, that it takes a while sometimes for people to adapt to what you're putting out. And you can't take that personally as an artist. Never take that personally. Whenever someone comes around to understanding what you're doing, that's a great day.
I mean, it's only now when I'm trying to take some elementary guitar myself that someone told me the other day that Jimi Hendrix on stage was playing the guitar and changed a guitar string at the same time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Have you ever seen Stevie Ray Vaughan do it? Oh
No.
my, that's a master at work right there. Like this dude he breaks the string, uh, hands it off to the guitar tech. And the guitar tech uh, hands him a new guitar with a string put in it, and then he wraps it up, puts it on the spindle, and rolls it up, and then tunes it while he's playing, and then continues to play. Who the hell does that? Nobody does that. Nobody does that. That's
But
insane.
right, but until you've gone through it yourself, it's really hard to have an appreciation for even right. If you don't know, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
That's for sure. But it sounds like, I mean, I could be, conflating ideas, but your experience and deep resilience and doing really hard things prepares you for rejection. Like that's something that not a lot of athletes go through. I work with a lot of teen athletes that are great in high school and now they're
Hmm.
going to the collegiate level. and all of a sudden you're not the tallest, strongest, most fit. You may not, you're amongst everybody who's maybe at that same level, and it can be really hard to face perceived rejection or failure for the first
Right.
time.
Right. And a lot of times because they're expecting an external validation to drive them through. And the key thing is to have internal validation so that external validation is just the cherry on top of the sundae. You've already got the knowledge and the understanding that of what your processes are and what your trajectory is. So you can even say, just because I can't, do a 360 windmill dunk right now doesn't mean that I won't be able to in 6 months. And just because that dude dunked on me today doesn't mean that I won't be dunking on him tomorrow. Doesn't mean I won't be nailing threes in his eyes for the entire game in another week or so. And if I put my work in, then I will do that, and it won't even matter at that point because it's all about me hitting the threes. It doesn't matter whose eye I'm putting it in. It matters that I hit the shot, and that also that the team won the game. That's what's even more important. And when you get to that point, then you're a mature adult who's doing amazing things instead of an immature adult who's trying to fight with other people for the respect that they can only give themselves.
So yeah, it's great points, Sean. And so how did you start to find this in your own music, career? I mean, you tackle so many things from being a lyricist, songwriter, content creator. How did you start to, and you're in the landscape where all of a sudden Spotify, all these new ways of music being released and follow. So where did you find that inner confidence and validation?
Retaining the mentality of being the eternal student. A lot of times we feel like um, sometimes ego will get in our way. Sometimes ego is not the thing that progresses you forward with confidence. Sometimes ego is the thing that's holding you back. And for me, I had to go through a process of understanding that I wasn't good enough, that where I was at, that I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. So that means that I needed to learn. So with that comes a humility, but also with that humility, you have to uh, put in ability. You have to give yourself something to foster ability. So, for example, I was doing it with music for a really long time, and I was, getting to really great places where I'm playing all the songs that I wanted to play, but I just wasn't connecting to music. It was 2019. I'd gotten a divorce. The album had gotten stolen by the manager. I didn't have any prospects for the quarantine whatsoever. It looked like all of the work that I had done for the past 7 years was about to just get washed away, like it had never existed because I didn't get the commercial records released the way that I wanted them to. They weren't established in the industry so that people could go, oh, that's who the quarantine was. Nobody knew who the quarantine was. They heard of a band once in a while, you know, that was doing this, and they didn't really go with this. What I can't find it online, so where the hell is it? You know, I was at a point to where it was. Most people probably would have just been like, "I'm just gonna give this shit up. What else have I really got to go forward with it?"
Mm,
I was going through a really hard existential crisis, not just personally, but professionally. And not just professionally, but emotionally as well. All of the coping mechanisms that I had for dealing with PTSD were failing. I didn't have anything to give myself another reason to keep getting up in the morning. If I didn't have music, what else was there? Then I decided I'm going to put it into something external. I'm going to put my hope and ability into something that I can make daily progress on. That that gives me that can give me feedback, so I can start to work towards something because I didn't feel like I could work towards anything in music anymore. I felt like I had gotten to a pinnacle, too much ego, right?
mm.
Um, I put it into baseball. I started doing pitching, learning all of the different pitches, like curveball, slider, the whole nine. It turns out after about 3 years of work, I have about 6 pitches that I can throw.
Well,
3 different fastballs, 2 different sliders, a curveball, and a changeup. And I went into the men's league of fast pitch baseball around in Florida. And I don't know if you're a fan of baseball, but in Florida,
Oh yeah.
spring training is in Florida.
Oh yes.
Like the majority of the AL teams are all based in Florida for spring training. So that means all of their trainers live in Florida. Well, guess what I can do then? I could go get real MLB training from an actual MLB coach for very, very little. And so I did that and I started to give myself the pro training to see what it was like. And I started comparing it to what I needed to do with music.
Hmm.
That process of training in something else gave me the idea of, oh, that's how I need to approach music. That's how I need to start pushing myself and stop letting this ego hold me back, but let it fuel my ability so that I go and go and go until I have more than enough, and then I'll be able to do anything that I want to do. Kind of like the mentality of Kobe. I'm not going to stop practicing just because I won a championship. I'm not going to stop practicing just because I can rely on Shaq. I'm not going to stop practicing just because I've got, an entire team. Maybe I won't have an entire team behind me. And soon enough, he didn't. Then he had to start dropping 80. Then he had to start doing amazing things. And the only reason why he
Yeah.
was able to do that was because it was him in a gym alone, making sure that he had the ability to push through when he knew that even when he didn't think he could. And that's the mentality that you need to have in the music industry to make it through. So once I started to foster that, then everything was like, oh, then I see the path that I've got to take. I've got to, start making the album, and I've got to make it as good as possible. I've got to get press. I've got to get, all of these different, make all of these different steps to, reach to grind myself back into it, to get on the grind so that I can get back into it. And then I did that, and we're at where we're at right now, with a million streams on Spotify, 40 million or more or so on TikTok, and we're just beginning. Just beginning. This is the first iteration of the press schedule that we have for it. So we've still got lots more to do, and because it's all based around who I am, man, I can keep talking about that forever. Like
Right.
it's not like I created something where there's an end to it. I'm constantly building the story. So once I was able to foster that place for me, where I was able to have a testing ground for what I needed to do, a an ability to let myself grow, and to constantly be learning new things and find that enjoyable. Once I was able to build that environment, then I was able to do anything that I set my mind to.
Wow, it sounds like there's a lot of parallel. I like that you drew upon sports. Sometimes, right, when we go to something we love, uh,
Mhm.
we're allowed we can motivate ourselves a lot more to to work hard when it's passion, when we take the stress off it. So it's very interesting how choosing something and giving yourself that gift, and allowing yourself to be creative and explore, it then can, like you said, it fuels into other areas of your life because those capacities on a neural level, on an emotional level, right? That's the flip side of ego you mentioned, right? Is that ego sometimes shuts us down and keeps us playing small because we're afraid, or we're trying to do it by ourselves. We don't know
Mhm.
how, we just don't know where to go or where to look.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah. So, do you give yourself a moment to notice your arrival?
Um, yes, but not long.
Mm,
Not long.
mm.
I don't stay in that place very long at all. Um, Compliments are always just have always been distracting to me. And to quote Jimi Hendrix, that he compliments are a distraction. Um, and I've always kind of felt like, um, because sometimes you can trust them, sometimes you can't. Usually, when someone's being genuine about it. That's just intuition. But I've found that the true the true catharsis of ability comes from working towards something and then accomplishing it, and it becomes second nature. That's the accomplishment, not the performing it in front of other people. That's just an expression of ability. The true accomplishment comes when you can't do something and then you build it up yourself to where you can. That's what the accomplishment is. So when that's the goal, not a million people listen to the record, but that I make the best record that I possibly can, that I push myself to do better than what I had originally thought. And I give myself the space to become uh, better than what I was before. That's the accomplishment. So when I get that, and then I get it, and then it does really well in the world, well, that's just cherry on top. I
Right.
know that I've gotten someplace, but I still know that I accomplished that. I accomplished that record, and nobody can ever take that away from me.
That's right. And you're talking about a lot of levels of development from your inner self, your creativity. And then you've mentioned a couple times, right, how your own experience serving has that created like a bigger purpose, a higher purpose for the music, um, or just for how to use it for healing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm able to see a grander scope of things. I think I was able to. The military gave me a international diplomatic relations. It gave me a real understanding of what that means, and
Mm,
that was able to help me see scope. How far back can I see the world, and do these patterns still show the further back that I get? As an artist, how do you represent that perspective? Then that became the a part of it, not just describing what had happened on a small level, but describing the macro scope of things. Then you're really showing people what they look like from the outside. Then you're showing people the pale blue dot.
I haven't. No, please
Okay,
tell
so
us.
Carl Sagan, back in the day, in his Cosmos show, um, one of the most profound things that he delivered at the time was a picture of a black blank nothingness with a tiny, tiny, tiny little blue dot. And he said, "This is a picture from Voyager taken 2 million millions and millions of miles away, and it turned its camera back to Earth." And we wanted to see, what do we look like from millions and millions of miles away, and we look like a tiny blue dot. Everything you've ever known, all human history, every person who has ever lived and ever died, everything that has ever happened within that tiny pale blue dot that barely makes up a couple of pixels. It's
Mm.
important to remember perspective.
Yes, that's right. And so, yes, and in everything, right, in order to keep us going, in order to sometimes see all the work we've put in and take a moment to savor the amount of work, right, to appreciate ourselves, um,
Yeah.
um, to appreciate who's helped us got there, to notice. I think it's important for us, you know, appreciation for the journey. And then yet there's this meaning making from like your understanding of what it's like to be a veteran, and then to bring it back to future veterans who are going through this experience. You have that awareness or that understanding of what they're carrying. And it's a very unique perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Um, this kind of reminds me of a story. So, when we were on the FTX for basic training, and it was after this long ruck march to get out to our area, and I was looking to sham, and if you're in the military, you know that phrase, and sham is basically screw off and not get caught, right? Um, so in this case, the screwing off was, we're gonna try to sleep a little bit. We're gonna try to get like maybe 30 minutes of sleep or so because we're fucking tired, man. Um, and so we dug our little our little foxholes, and we put our sleeping bags in there. And in the about 10:30 or so in the morning, we decided to get into our sleeping bags and see if we could sham for like 30 minutes. Of course we couldn't. Of course we got busted. Of course. And so my drill sergeant grabs me out, and he's like extra pissed. And he makes me low crawl through this. this really wet grass. And so it made me soaked. Like you lay down in it and you're like already soaked. You crawl through it and you're like you might as well have jumped in a pool, you know? And I got to a point to where I was like, I can't do this. I can't go any further. And the drill sergeant was like, yes, you can. Yes, you absolutely can. And he kept yelling at me and I kept going and kept going.
Mm,
He said, stop. Look back at where you came from. And I was literally 150 meters away from where the camp was. I'd crawled completely out of the camp. I didn't even realize how far I had really gone. And he said,
mm,
that's what happens when you actually focus. That's what happens when you actually dedicate yourself to do something more than just screw off, because you're better than that, Martin. You're better than just screwing off. You can do so much more. See how you didn't even think you could start doing this when we started. And now you're already way further than you ever thought you would ever be. So now what are you going to do? Now you're going to take that lesson and go apply it to everything that you do. It wasn't
mm.
joking in that he was yelling at me. He got right down to my face and basically whispered those words to me. And that's what made it intense. That's what made me remember it. And also remember that, to me, it was exactly the same as that. It's the clip going around where, this football coach is pushing this guy to crawl faster and crawl farther than he ever thought.
Mm.
And if you get the right and proper motivation, that's what can happen. So that this conversation kind of reminded me of that story.
It's like the blind side or something.
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but it was definitely a blindside moment. The drill sergeant created it for me right then. It was great.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I wish you got your sleep, but
No, I'm glad I didn't in that case. I
that was
learned a
a very
valuable
positive
lesson.
metaphor comparing crawling in your uniform to being in a pool. Wow. I mean, that's what I mean. I'm glad you have these stories because it turns it into something that we all learn from,
Yeah.
really appreciate, how challenging it can be, but it gives, right. We don't see how those things are going to feed our character in the moment.
Mhm.
We don't see it, and that's, the gift, right? If we could only receive it in the moment and not defend it.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a whole nother story. But a lot of the men's work I do, a lot of the group I do, it's like learning how to trust and connect kind of to your troop or to your brigade. We don't have a lot of that outside of sports, where you have to be looking out for each other, and that is one of the gifts of the military, and something I always learned from my father as a serviceman as well. And I really appreciate, you and all those who put your life on the line and sacrifice so much. And yet, without this healing journey back, right, it's just so much pain to carry.
Right.
How often do you run into, men who are serving on your work or connect to people and have them come tell their story? How much is that a part of your daily life right now?
Right now, not so much. Normally I would go to like group therapies and just go to a new group therapy, just to be able to meet new veterans. Um,
Mm,
I don't know if people know this or not, but the vet center is a separated from the VA, and it offers free counseling and therapy for combat veterans and military sexual trauma survivors. So if you have any combat experiences whatsoever, you don't have to be infantry. You can go to the vet center and get free therapy, and they have group therapies most of the time there. So a lot of times I would go to group therapy just to be able to talk with other veterans and see what's going on in their life. Lately, with the I've been doing so many podcast things, I just haven't had the time to go and do it. So I mean that gets my daily dose of of socialization for the day. But it is a very important aspect of my life and of my advocacy to main to maintain the what I call the operation to 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 facilitate learning, to continue to be that eternal student, to realize that just my story isn't just the end of it. These stories continue every single day. And
Mm,
sometimes the we sit and can be dealing with a carrying this baggage for a good long time, and it's not until you see someone who has let it go that you realize, oh my God, I could do that too. Sometimes you don't realize it. I always another story I have is I was at I was at a vet center in Florida, and I was sitting across from this older guy who's a Vietnam veteran. And normally Vietnam veterans and Iraq War veterans have separate groups, but this time I decided to go to the Vietnam veterans group specifically to go and talk to the Vietnam veterans. And I
mm,
sat across from a guy who was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, and he was a Huey pilot. So he was the guy who was dropping into those hot zones, like barely touching the ground, letting them all get out and then flying away. And he would have a couple of gunners that would always be going the whole entire time. And he, was telling me about all of the different missions that he was doing, about all of the different crazy things that he was doing. And his wife was sitting right next to him. And when he got up to go get some water, she leaned over and was like, I have never heard 90% of these stories. I've been living with for 20 years and I never heard a fucking word. What did you say to him? How did you get him to open up? And I said,
mm.
all I did was tell him one story of mine that made him recognize that I was a combat operator as well. And once he knew that he could share anything with me. And I'm not going to sit there and go, oh my God, or have a
Right.
crazy reaction. I would give him the space to tell his story and not just be subject to my reaction to it. And once you give that, they'll tell you everything, man.
Well,
Everything.
also by being someone who's gone through it and being vulnerable with it, you drop the armor of needing to protect somebody else, which a lot of
Yes.
us, right? And that's like a barrier. Our strengths, I always say, our weaknesses are hidden within our strengths. So it's like the minute that you're seen as you walk the same walk, yeah, it's they can trust. It builds trust.
It does. It really does. And that was an amazing story, an amazing time to sit there and just take in all these stories from a different era that really didn't have anything to do with me, but I fully and completely understood because I had already had a small amount of understanding of what that looked like to do operations with Blackhawks. I'd already done those. So I had a frame of reference for everything that he was talking about. And then once he tells it to someone who can truly appreciate the story, we've got a real connection that just sprouted up simply because I was able to ask him what was going on and he was able to tell me because we both understood each other.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So this it sounds like right. It's part of your continual work when you're not telling your story on podcasting. Tell a little bit of your audience what your why is. You, what your vision is for your music in the coming year.
So right now we're looking at creating more at doing see how to put this. Establishing a baseline of high quality content. And what that looks like is, a short mini documentary that's like Netflix style that talks about a lot of the combat experiences, but also the music industry experiences, so that people can get an established, idea of the timeline of what happens, and it's in a very cohesive way. From there, then we've still got to do music videos for all of the thing. I've got to do performance content to relate it on social media. We've got touring looking that we're looking forward to. We've got and from that, um, that's a lot of outreach. That's a lot of outreach. Oh, and besides that, we're going to be looking into doing speaking engagements. With that and speaking to different groups, that's going to be separate and parallel to the music touring. So we're going to create our own way of traveling through this music industry and not just relying on merch and ticket sales to make it through. We're going to try to get innovative with this shit. We're going to try to tailor the music industry to me instead of me to the music industry.
Wow. Powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope you feel that when you say it. I mean, that speaks to so much conviction and understanding of all the different skill sets you put together. And the team I trust behind the scenes
Oh
of
yeah, that's
Quarantine.
important too. I have been trying to do this on my own for a good long time. And let me tell you how stupid that is. Let me tell you how, if you are an artist right now and you're listening to this and you're saying, I don't really need a team, all I need is a manager. Let me tell you how fucking retarded it actually is. Let me tell you how stupid you have to be to think that you are the only one who can get yourself through this music industry and that's all you need to trust. Let me tell you how stupid that is and how quickly you will end up getting screwed over. Let me be the first to tell you because I tried. All right. I tried real hard, but it wasn't until I got someone who knew the inside of the top of the box, who knew what the deals were supposed to look like, who knew everything that you didn't have to rely on the, tongue in cheek, handshake under the table. Yeah, we'll do a thing. It'll be fun. It'll be cool, man. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we'll do it. That kind of smarmy shit that happens all the time in the music industry. When you learn how to avoid that and do it on a legitimate level instead and hold that standard, then the world becomes so much better. So much better. And it's
True.
really important for artists to recognize. Don't be stupid. Create a team. Find subject matter experts. Apply them into your plan. Don't just try to be a lone wolf and think you can do it on your own. You can't. It's
There it
impossible.
is, the key word, the danger of the lone wolf. Well, real talk, real stories. Sean Martin, thank you for being with us. Tell our listeners how they can find you and learn more, or maybe you're going to add, life coaching to your services as well, because some people out there might need a little bit of a kick to get going. But yeah, tell us how our listeners will, of course, put the Spotify link in the show notes. But tell anyone out there who's gotten something from the show or would like to learn more how to get a hold of you.
Sure. You can contact us through our website, thequarantine.com. You can find us on almost all the social medias, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, at the quarantined. You find our Bandcamp site where you can buy all of our discography for a discount. You can also name your own price. Look for articles around search for Sean Martin the Quarantine, and you'll find us. They're also easily listed on our website. So go to the press articles tab, and you can find all the stuff to get to know us and our story and all that jazz. So thequarantine.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for your time, for your persistence, your service, and for the gift of music so that we can all unburden ourselves and get a little dose of that healing.
Thank you. I
Today.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be here. Thank you.
A true honor to have Sean Martin. I hope you got a lot out of that. I certainly appreciate it, enjoyed it. The Quarantined with a D. Sean Martin, do-it-yourself music, mental health, and real stories. I hope you got a sampling of all of those. It was a privilege and an honor, and to hear how music is being used to overlap and inspire treatment of mental health in the current day and age. I'm Richard Listens. Please reach out to me if you or someone you know would like to be a guest, or if you need help or guidance in mental health, men's work, or with your own performance. This is Richard, and I'm out.